monetize later.
Thank you.
So start with the end in mind. You got to start with a storefront. If you don't have a storefront, you have nothing to start from. So you want to write it up like you want to have this be like an engineered kind of project. A good engineered project has something written down. Your offer is a good thing to do because if you just follow what I'm saying, you can start selling something today, probably make a decent amount of money given your field. I know coaches in your area are making about 10 grand, 20 grand per client if you have a good offer. So I'm going to give you the tenets of good offer. Okay.
Okay.
And by the way, even if you're a realtor or whatever business you're in, the same kind of thinking pervades. You might have some exceptions to the rule, but this is what. So you have a title, but you want to start not with the title, which is what most people do. It kind of throws them into paralysis. What you want to start with is the 4 to 8 things maximum that people are going to get. But you don't want to write it like how most people do, which puts people into a permanent coma. It's boring. You want to say things about what people, results people are going to get, or a future state people are going to have, or a future experience. So, a future
Right.
state, result, or an experience. So, something that's well worded in what I call business Shakespeare. Business Shakespeare is common English that people use, not your jargon. So how do you arrive at this? Well, you can interview someone. If you interview like 10 people that you have and ask them the following questions. Why did you hire me as opposed to someone else? Now, even if it's a friend who didn't pay you, ask them this question. Ask them what did they get after they worked with you that was worth the time? Then ask them what it was like before they worked with you. Then ask them what it was specifically 2 or 3 things that you did with them that helped them create that massive transformation. Record these because you want to record them. I promise you, you want to record it because their wording, the way they use English is what you want to put into these 4 to 8 bullet points.
Okay.
Again, you don't want to say stuff like, I will help you sit down and work out a plan for your future sex life in your bedroom. That's all what I call process-oriented stuff that will put people into a permanent coma. You want to say stuff like, um, I I was just working relationship coach this morning, and you want to say stuff like, I help you move from a contentious, debating romance, the romantic life, fraught with all kinds of unnecessary drama, to having heaven in your bedroom, kitchen, living room floor, done in a respectful, honoring way.
Mm-hmm.
That's more enticing than saying, I do a 4-week course that helps you improve your relationships.
So can you repeat that? I hope you move from,
It's in the recording.
okay,
My
right.
brain works about 80,000 miles an hour. I'll try to recreate it for you.
Yeah.
Okay? But the idea is you really want to get in the world of your customer. Your customer doesn't care about your process. It couldn't give a living crikey about it, really. Your customer cares about how are you going to alter their future in a positive way, right? See, I help people because I give them 20 hours of free time, guaranteed, if they do the work, no matter how busy you are. That's one of the things I do. The second thing I do is help you put 15 to 20 people in front of you every week who could be potential clients in a webinar. And I teach you how to do compelling webinars so you don't have to worry about your cash flow in the future. That's more compelling than saying, hey, I help you craft a really good webinar. So you,
Right.
you have to appeal to people's sense of the future of what they want, right? Now, so you want to write down 4 or 8 of those bullet points. So something like, again, I'll try to recreate what I said earlier. I help you move from a contentious, debating, argumentative, romantic lifestyle to one where it's genuinely joyful heaven, um, expressed in your desires and experienced in your desires every single day, evening, night, morning, whether you're at work, something like that. I'm exaggerating.
Right. Yeah, yeah. That part I can go from there, but yeah, it was the first part.
So you want to come up with like 4 to 8 bullet points like this. They're not going to be perfect the first time you do it. But
Bullet,
if you, Yeah,
The
go ahead.
bullet
Sorry, please.
points are what, like, what the results that they would get?
Results, future experiences, or emotional state changes that are positive. See, this also pertains to one of you I know is a real estate person. You know, I've trained real estate people and uplift their marketing. Most real estate brochures look are extremely boring. But if you say something like, I help you find a home that fits your family lifestyle. So you have at least the next 10, 15 years are going to be some of the most extraordinary years of your life because your perfect home represents what you want in your future and for your children. That's way more interesting than help you find the perfect home.
Right.
The
Yes.
latter is boring. The former is expresses a future emotional state change that they want, and a specific result. Help you find a home, perfect home, according to your real wants. The next 10, 15 years are going to be extraordinary for your family, represented by the house. So a result plus a future,
Gotcha.
plus an emotional state change. You don't have to have all three in there, but your 8 bullet points should express that. So when they look at this, they go, hey, this is cool. I need to talk to you. They're not necessarily going to buy from you, but
Mhm.
now you're selling the discovery session, but they're already walking into the discovery session with the future in mind.
Yeah, can I ask
Not,
you a question
yeah,
on that? On
sorry.
the, on the, this, the discovery call, right? The session that we're talking, should that be free or should that be paid?
It's better to do it free. I'll tell you why, but you want to filter it really well. And I'm going to actually offer all of you an opportunity to have a discovery session with me. I don't filter this particular one because I'm going to trust you guys, but I do email people and ask them what they want in the session, and I filter them that way. You want to be very, very, very protective of your time. So you don't want to necessarily charge for it, but you want to filter by asking questions. Questions like, how soon do you want to have this transformation? The next 3 months, the next year, or later? If it's next year or later, advise them to keep coming back to you. Just join your email list, but it may not be the right time for us to talk, right?
Yeah.
So, by the way, I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom right now. Um, So yeah, you filter as much as you can. Okay. You have a fair degree of competition in your market. But how can I say this? If you start out with just the right offer and it's written up very well, you can work backwards and design how you're going to sell your discovery session. Because all of this has to be cogent. You don't want to look like you're selling kangaroos and then sell life insurance at the end. So that's why I start with the offer. And then from there, I design the discovery session. The discovery session, you want to come up with a cool title for the discovery session and say, these are the 3, 4 things you're going to get out of the discovery session. But they have to be congruent with what you offer in your final offer. The
Yeah.
final offer should be something you think is the most ideal offer that someone who has no concerns about money or time will get from you.
And one last question.
Yeah.
The package, right? The thing that I'm gonna be offering them. Do you find that there's a certain time frame that works the best, like 3 months, 6 months, or?
We'll have to talk in more detail because see, you're gonna have to do a lot more thinking about the design of this, but it has to start from top level. So you have to look at the ideal program, what it will take to really impart that knowledge or that training or whatever you need to do, and how long it will take in an average couple or individual you want to work with. So it starts with top level design. My bet is you probably come up with, if you work with me, you come up with an ideal program that you could start selling in a week or less, which will be more expensive and it might be,
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking, because I have a 6 month
sorry.
program. It
Uh,
is, top price, but I keep hearing, I don't have money for that. I don't have money for that.
yeah,
So,
that's usually a different problem. If they say they're not having money, it's mostly because they're not really seeing the future in what you're offering.
The value, right?
The
Yeah.
primarily the value, but the value, it's easy to say value, but value means bukaka. See, the real value they want, if you dig deeper into the word value, it's more like they don't see the future changing radically enough to pay you that money. Now, I don't
You
care.
have to
I've had,
paint it for
that's
them,
very good. Yeah.
right? So you have to paint that future for them, what it would
You have to
look
paint it very vividly, like a really good Shakespeare play.
like. Okay.
When you think of Romeo and Juliet, what do you think? You want to think like that. You want to say, like, your offer has to create Romeo and Juliet on the bedroom floor or whatever. I'm not trying to be grotesque.
Mhm.
I'm not a prude. So, you want to paint that picture in your offer. And if you have that, you'll have your natural style. You don't have to be a Tony Robbins jumping up and down doing all this. You'll have your natural enthusiasm come out in the discovery session,
Okay.
right? And then you see that's very important to have in a sales funnel. Whether you're selling nails or whatever you sell, you want to have it be well designed. It has to express the future because if you're clear about where you're leading them in the future, you'll have the natural enthusiasm to share it because there's nothing to argue about.
Got it.
Don't
Yeah.
have to convince them.
Yeah.
They'll get it or they won't. And if they won't, walk away. Because the
Hmm.
best place to start from any negotiation, all of this is negotiation, by the way, is to start with a healthy no. People think you have to start with yes. No. Start with a no. Give them the best you can. If they say no to that, it's a starting point because they think they can't have it. Then you can ask them, I'm curious. I accept your no, but I'm curious why you said no because I'm concerned you may be missing out on something. It sounds like you really want something. Sounds like you really want to have a great sex life, but you don't have it. And I'm just curious. And it comes from a place of service. And you don't have to answer.
A place of what?
Service.
Service. I think that's the part where I fail. I do all the other things that you said,
You're
but
trying to
that is
convince them.
it's when they say no, I kind of
Yeah, you're kind of like,
yeah.
no. If you start with
So
no, sometimes that's the best place to start because, see, if someone says yes too soon, problematic because you don't know what, maybe there's something else they need, you know? If they say
hmm.
maybe, it's horrible. It's not necessarily good because you're not really sure what they want, you see. So if you do this right, then you can actually have a discovery session where you start finding out what they really want. Because most people, when you ask them what they want, they'll give you a surface answer.
Right.
I'm never satisfied with the surface answer. I want to find out what will, there's a point, and you can feel it energetically. I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about, where a conversation shifts and people start generating more than you do in the conversation. If you're trying to convince them, it ain't happening for you, man. You're losing out. You're giving away free information. And probably this person's going to go to somewhere else, find a cheaper deal with the
Mm-hmm.
information you gave them and hire them.
Okay.
Hate having good people like you lose business like that. It's unfair.
Yeah.
Life is not very fair that way. But this is how you turn it around. Create a good offer. And then from the offer, you design your sales funnel to fit. So, um, you create a discovery session. Now you got to figure out, the best way to do it is webinars for someone like you,
I do. I do them on Eventbrite. Do you think that's the best? No.
because you got too much competition there. I do it on Meetup. I'm the guy who innovated and
Oh,
created an outstanding way of doing it on Meetup. It's a combination of Meetup, Alignable, and LinkedIn. Way less costly, way more effective if you do it correctly.
okay.
And if you want to learn more about it, just book an informal time with me and I'll show you how to fill your webinars. It'll
Hmm.
cost you more like if you do Facebook and Eventbrite, you'll have to spend about 10 grand a month. I mean, honestly, with the competition you have. If you want to have some certainty. Now, there may be exceptions to that rule if you have something like really special in your marketing, but most people don't these days. So it's more expensive to get eyeballs, and Eventbrite is just too competitive. On Meetup, you have 70 million people, but I promise you, you don't have a million people, not even close, who are sex and relationships therapists or coaches trying to reach out to them. But probably less than 500, I bet you. So your odds are better on Meetup than on Facebook because on Facebook, the ratio is like 1 to 100. It's like, you have 2 billion people. Yeah, it sounds great. But you have millions of people who are distracting those people from you.
Okay.
So if you only pay $10 a day, you're not going to get in front of your top-notch people. The people are paying $10,000 a month. They're getting in front of those
Well, I
people.
need those people to get the $10,000 a month. So,
Well, the easier way is to do it on Meetup. It's
okay.
more affordable, and you'll build a community and you'll build a better pathway to see. I teach people this in the second year they become speakers because they use the audience that's very transparent
Mm-hmm.
to leverage getting better speaking gigs. Once you get on the speaking stage, even on breakout rooms at conferences, you're going to
Yeah, I've
convince
I've
some
done
people.
some speaking interviews online. I've done interviews for people's shows and stuff. But so that is in my,
It's a
working
slow
on.
burn to do it that way. It's
Yeah.
good to do it because it builds some credibility. But you want to aim to get on the bigger stages and the bigger podcasts. That means you have to demonstrate an audience. And
Right.
Meetup, when you see, I have 150,000 people on my Meetup groups
Tell them to come over to me.
uh, well, let's talk. And I'll teach you how to do that. I'll teach you how to build your own community,
Okay.
which is more better. It's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, because if you talk to people like me, they're going to exact their pound of meat from you, which means they need to promote to you, which means they're going to dilute your marketing. So it's better that you build your own audience, you have your own currency rather than rely on someone else's currency.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yep.
If you try
Yeah.
start doing joint ventures and collaborations with other people, the higher level people will some in the early days they used to charge 100% commission for your first webinar. That's crazy, isn't it? You pay someone 100% for
Hmm.
marketing to their group. So
Yeah.
it's better to build your own audience, then you have more leverage with people.
Okay.
The quicker you can build that, the better. So if you do webinars, then you do a 20-minute, you want to be short and sweet about it. Don't put people into a coma with a long explanation. You think it's the best thing in the world, but they fall asleep to it. Get in the audience's world, answer their questions. 20
Oh,
minute
so I've been
presentation.
doing an hour, so hour is too long.
Way too long. You're losing people probably if you're tracking it, probably losing them within about the 20-minute mark. 20-minute mark, you got to put them into a Q&A. And the Q&A, see, I'm doing a Q&A right now in a sense. And that's more engaging the people. You got to get to the Q&A quick, especially with
Okay.
a topic like yours.
Do you
Yeah.
share your story or anything, like how you got into the business and then jump into the
I do very
Q&A?
little of that, although I got a damn good story. But, I do very little of that because people get interested in my story once they work with me one-on-one, and then they want to hear it all.
Okay.
But in a webinar, who are they more interested in, you or themselves?
Themselves. Yeah.
Themselves.
Yeah.
So serve that.
Okay.
Serve that flow. That's where the flow of energy is going to, and you got to serve that flow. If you don't serve it, then it'll be all about you, and they will fall asleep, and they will never come back, probably. You know,
Okay.
they'll get a lot of information, but then they'll go away. The worst thing.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. I think I probably give too much information away and then they love it and then I never hear from them again. So,
It's a very common story. Unfortunately, I'm trying to turn that around and teach people to do it some other different way, and it's the way to do it. So if you want to learn more, the beauty, by the way, is always in the details. So if you want to learn the details, just book I put a link in there to book an informal time with me. So
okay.
you can
I'll
book it.
grab it. Thank you.
Anybody else with questions, ask and you shall receive. Don't ask, you won't receive a damn thing. Anybody with questions? Yeah, Teresa, do you have a question for me?
I do. So I use the service tactic as part of how I sell my business products, and uh, I think people take advantage of it.
What do you mean by that? If you can explain it, please.
So I give them a value proposition as to why they would want to use my service, and
And what's your service, if you don't mind sharing?
oh, I apologize. Yes. So I generate revenue for clients, but I mostly do it through contracting, through grants, through any type of money that's out there to be derived for whatever type of program, service, or product they want to put out.
Ah,
But part of my value proposition, of course, is that I work with the community, whatever that community looks like. And once I give that value proposition, I think I get taken advantage of. I think people think that, okay, my cost should be lower, that, I shouldn't be charging them what I'm charging them. Somewhere in there, I should be giving them something for free. And I have tried the freebie, and that only brings them back to see if they can get more freebie.
yeah, that's a very common mistake most people make. Again, it's a lack of design. And you may have joined us late, but I talked about the necessity for design. If you design a business that's like a Porsche or a Mercedes, you'll get a good business. If you don't design and you pretty much follow what most of the people have perhaps taught you or told you, or maybe you heard the idea initially somewhere, then it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall, hoping something will stick.
Mm,
And the freebie can work if it's structured correctly. And it looks like in your case, it may not be structured well
okay.
because you're not discovering what people need, want, and are willing to commit to. All three have to come together. Needing, useful, but not enough. Wanting, kind of gets you there. But committed to, all three coming together, that's important. That's usually a function of the three things I mentioned earlier. Just how are you going to change that future positively? What's the emotional state change positive? What results specifically? Now, the other thing you want to understand is no is not a bad starting point. Getting a quick no is usually better than having a quick yes or a quick maybe. So right now, you're kind of structuring for a quick yes or a quick maybe,
Okay.
but not structuring to get a no. Because when someone says no, or you say no,
Mhm.
it's a good starting point because now we can identify, well, why did you say no? You see, and you can learn more from that. Even if they don't buy from you, the next person, now what your market really needs. And that's important to discover rather than just hopefully hoping like yeah, you should probably stop doing the freebie or position it differently. So I know I'm not trying to lump you in, but I think you're in the grant writing industry maybe, but that's fairly competitive. Um, and people tend to, yeah, I can get that because I've worked in that industry before. People tend to be quite cheap about it. But then there's always the 10% rule. 10% people are not cheap. They want quality work. So you got to attract that 10%. How you attract them is you got to tell them exactly in no kind of wiffly way where you're going to direct them to, where you want them to go. So it obviously you cannot promise them the money or guarantee them the money, but there's something else in your offer that they may want, which is maybe more certainty about the process. There's something else I'm hearing. I can't quite identify it, but if you sat down with me, we could probably identify what that really was.
Yeah, so it started out just doing grant writing, and then from there, I was able to derive other revenue lines for myself based on what comes with contracts and grants. And so
Ah,
there's other parts
yeah,
that come with it. So
yeah,
it's either
yeah.
the needs assessment, the evaluation, the community development application, those types of things. So I derived my other revenue lines from that because just you were correct. For that reason, when you say proposal or grant writing, people put me on the cheap. And so there was no point in having a business at the prices they were quoting me. And the industry, you're right, that industry is crowded. And so there's the budgeting part of it. So based on that, what I did was I just said, okay, I can derive other revenue. At the top of my, and I don't mind being transparent, at the top of my bottom line, when I did that, I was making 20,000
That
a
sounds
month.
about right. That sounds
Yes.
right. I think you need to go up market because my sense is you have a lot more gravitas than the average grant writer. And
Okay.
so you need to go up market probably and offer the higher quality services, but they need to be framed properly in better language, is my sense.
Okay.
You're occurring like an artisan, a very good expert, but you need to communicate that expertise in a good love language that lands for people. So they
Okay.
fall in love with you rather than go, well, that sounds nice. I think I'll date her for a while and then leave her alone. You see,
Okay.
so you want to create that. So you like everybody else, like my mentor told me in 1991, it still pertains now because life hasn't changed that much. Any kind of business issue can be solved with a good sales letter. It means a good offer. Good
Okay.
offer is good title at the top, and but the title is the last thing you do. You want to come up with the 4 to 8 things that I shared with Teja, the relationships coach earlier. It's the same
Okay.
process, similar process. You want to let them know what alters in their future out of having better structures and the deals that they get, the grants they get, the funding that they get. What makes you stand out? Because getting the fund, that's one thing, but making sure that you continue to get funds, that you get a second and third round of funding, may be more interesting, more useful. So, a good offer, well written, is probably what you need to look at.
Okay. So one of the ways that I also did that, and you're right, a lot of what I is experience and professional training. Um, but one of the ways that I tried to do that was to sort of tap into what I would consider subscription. So what I did was I went after uh, funding and revenue that I knew was going to be renewed in another year, but they would have to
Yes.
put in a continuation type of
Right.
application. So I would um, uh, not to belittle it or in any way. So what I would do is try to put my clients on a hook to say, okay, you need a short-term contract because this is going to resurface. I didn't call it a subscription because that scares people away in terms of my work.
Yeah.
So I said you either can do a short term or you can do a long-term contract.
Yeah. My sense is there's a little bit more complexity to your situation.
Mhm.
And you can say no to this, obviously, but I'm offering a little bit more time with me to dive
Okay.
deeper with you. If you want to take that time, we can talk more
Okay.
about it
Okay.
and help you come up with a good offer. Um, and once you have a good offer, then you can work backwards from that and create a good sales funnel, a process of
Okay.
getting people in. But but you really have to really work on the offer to get a good design for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My sense is I think that's the direction, at least a good starting point for the direction you want to take. Yeah.
Yeah. And my market is changing, so
Yeah, well,
um,
all of us.
yes, in light of everything that's going on, my market. But I knew that change was coming, so I have some agility to actually work within that change, and and it is flowing me to a different type of customer, in a different way. But I will schedule definitely the time. Hmm.
Well, it's always good to stay ahead of change. I've been doing business for 30 years. I've been
Hmm.
through a lot of recessions. I always smelt the thing about me is I was good at getting the scent of change. And change always happens. The truth is, a market can change every 3 months. So you
Hmm.
want to be ahead of that. If you're ahead of it, you not only beat the market, you not only beat the competition, you beat the market. That's good. See,
Yes.
that's good to learn. That's good habit to have in your
Okay.
business. Because chances are you're going to survive, out survive, if not do way better than survive.
Hmm.
So yeah, I look forward to talking with you more.
Okay, I will definitely book the time. Thank you.
Yeah. Ask and you shall receive. Don't ask, well, you don't get anything. Any questions, please? Yeah, Lily. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. So my name is Lily. I am a realtor here in Boston, Massachusetts. And as you probably know, you all know, this market is very saturated with real estate agents everywhere. And, everything that I try in order to stand out, it just, I feel like I'm hitting a wall every time because there are a lot of information, a lot of people, and a lot of content online. So this is my first time attending this, so I'm not sure if my question it's just
You're
tell
doing
me,
great so far. You're doing great so far. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I should go to a different market and ask people what, if they're buying a home, what kind of questions, what kind of um, concerns they have, or if I should I just don't know what kind of the offer, like what makes me stand out. Kind of, I'm not passing that message, right? I know what makes me stand out, but I'm not converting that message to them.
Yeah, that's one part is to see where you stand out. But the other part that's for your particular field, especially for real estate, you gotta find people when they are thinking about buying. You gotta like beat the other realtors. If someone's thinking of looking at a new school in a different area, you should be the first people they see. So if you start thinking like that in your particular industry, this may not pertain to the rest of you, but for your industry, if you can think of that. See, I had a realtor one time. We figured out that if she specialized in a particular area, she knew the school district very well, and there was beginning to be an influx of tech people going into that area. So she figured out how to position herself the moment a mother would consider moving into that area, what websites, what kind of questions they had, etc., what they would search online, figured all that out and positioned her to be the first realtor they ever met who could answer all the questions about schools and any other logistical things they had about moving from wherever they were at to that area, plus what kind of homes in what areas next to schools. She was like a one-stop operation for schools for people who wanted to move. No, that's just an example. I'm just giving you an example of how to think through that.
Right.
But yeah, the other thing is to look at your branding and how you want to, stand out from everybody else. So part of that could be your strengths, etc. But also, the other thing I look at is, um, how you can go up market. So like one of the realtors I did, I helped him start several meetup groups for just real estate investors in the area. We did it in Santa Cruz. And in about a year, we built it up to about 1,500 members, real estate members. But we never got much business from them. I tell you how we got business. That meetup thing started to get advertised, and he was right in the center of all the flows. And he started getting calls for luxury real estate from outside the area, from other investors who wanted to check out the area. See? So I'm giving you another way to think this through because, yeah, you got a lot of competition in your area. So you got to think of how you can get ahead of everybody else when people are searching for people like you. That's the first thing. Then the moment they find you, you want to have a clear argument that you're the only person they want to work with. So I know this is very abstract, but good ideas start with good abstraction. Then you can research this and find out what specific ways you can do this. Am I making sense or am I helping? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I've been thinking about meetups and stuff like that for a long time. Um, it's just my fear no one will show up and it'll be a big disaster, but it is how it starts, it is what it is. And I just gotta,
Every master was a disaster. My first workshop I ever did, was a real estate investment workshop, 1991. First 10 minutes, people started throwing stuff at me.
No.
I'm serious. They started throwing stuff at me. I was a young whippersnapper. I bought only my first investment property. I thought I knew the world. These are like experienced investors. They're laughing at me. My mentor set it up like that. He wanted to teach me a lesson. He said, Sunil, if things go wrong, just call me. So I had to call him. At that time, there's no cell phones. I had to put everyone in a bad chair. Went to the back of the room and called on a landline. My mentor, and he came around and he said, sit at the back, take notes. I sat at the back, I took notes. The next day, Sunday, he called me up in front of 150 investors. He said, what did you learn, Sunil? I said, I learned to listen. Got a standing ovation. That's how you learn. Sometimes it's hard to learn. But the people who learn this way, it's what I call short-term suffering. But short-term suffering leads to long-term joy.
You never
Most
forget.
people take long-term suffering with short spurts of joy here and there. They get a drink and but you do the short-term suffering, do the research right now, you have an opportunity to jump over your competition. Because
Right.
most realtors, I know them, they go for long-term suffering with short spurts of joy here and there. They don't bother to sit down and really look at their strategy. If you do that, you'll be like the guys who own brokerages, that's what they did mostly. They figured out a good strategy.
Absolutely.
You got to
Yeah.
think like that. You got to think like a general, or else you'll be like all the other privates who are real estate people digging trenches everywhere they can, which is very exhausting. Most realtors don't last. You don't want to be one of them. So you got to be smarter. The price to pay is you got to think of the strategy, do some research to do it. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but actually, I think this is bad news that leads to good news in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. This was extremely helpful, and I just gotta put into action and start overthinking. The more I overthink, the more I get paralyzed.
Yeah,
And
you're bang on with that because most people are not really thinking, they're thoughting. They're coming up with thoughts. That's not thinking. Thinking is, okay, let me do some research, find out where people are going, where's the money flows. Figure that out. Interview
mm,
some of the brokers. Hey, listen, I know you're successful. How did you figure this strategy out? What do you suggest are the good strategies right now? Some people are very generous enough to share with you, even if you're
so
competing with them. People are like that in top levels of business because they already done it. They don't
yeah,
mind
they don't
sharing.
compete. Yeah, they don't compete anymore. They collaborate.
They are on a bigger level. They don't care, you know?
Ab-
So there are people like me who love to share. If as long as someone's committed enough to listen and take the advice, we'll share. But if you know you're gonna waste it, we won't do anything.
Yeah, thank you
You
so
gotta
much.
think like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So stop thoughting and start thinking, like really thinking, looking at options. 10 or 5, 10 or 5 to 10 options on how you can approach your market. Start researching 5 of them, narrow it down to the top two that you're going to focus on. And it's not a bad approach. It's not guaranteed, but you sure will learn a lot about your business.
oh,
A
yeah,
lot more. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Otherwise, you'll just be like every other realtor who's just struggling and looking at leads and doing the whole ha ha he he thing. It's not really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't last. That's for sure.
Well, if you want to book a session and dive deeper into it, we can. But I think the approach I've given you is probably good for now. If you have more data and you want to talk more about some of the ideas you have, I'm happy to talk to you. Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
sure. Ask and you shall receive. Any other questions from anybody who's asked questions before, or more questions might have come up, or any other questions you guys have? Daira, I hope I'm saying that right. Daira, or
You're saying it right. I'm
Ah,
just listening. I hate I hopped on late.
what do you do there?
I have a mobile phlebotomy business. I'm trying to cut my camera on. A mobile phlebotomy business. I do phlebotomy, DNA testing, and drug testing.
Oh, okay. All right. Where are you located?
In right outside of San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, wow. Must be nice and warm there, huh?
It is.
A little too warm.
Not right now. It's been raining for the last 3 days, so it's not too
Oh,
bad today.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. Well, I like warm weather, you
I
know.
do too.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
prefer the warm over the cold.
Well, when you have all kind of melanin, I'm not trying to be racial or anything, but we kind of like warm weather.
Yes.
Uh, all right. So San Antonio, and you're the phlebotomy business. Got it. And what challenge are you facing that you like to resolve, or uh, you don't have to answer?
Networking, trying to get my name out here. So I just moved from Houston
Hmm.
in December. And so I've been pretty much mobile for the last 10 years. I've been doing medical exams for life insurance companies. So now I've branched out with my own thing. And in Houston, it was a little bit easier because I felt like the people were more friendlier and they're more welcoming and I can approach them with my business. But here, it's been difficult trying to navigate with meeting the people because I do still do the life insurance. So the people that I am encountering are the people with the life insurance, but they're not as welcoming. So it's hard for me to promote my business to them. And then with doctors, so I want to kind of try to reach doctors and stuff. So that way I can get contracts with doctors instead of just individual people that's just come here and there, getting their blood work and stuff done, and even companies with the drug testing.
I see. So who's your target market? Is it life insurance companies or
Mm.
is it, hmm,
And so I just found that I needed to have a target market. So like a niche, which area that I really wanted to be in. So I think I kind of narrowed it down to women's health, but I'm like, it's
sorry,
so
what,
hard.
one more time? Narrow it down.
Women's health.
Women's health. Okay, I see.
Mhm. Yeah. But
Okay.
it's like I care a lot about all people. So it's kind of hard for me to just say women's health because I'm like, so I have a cardiac panel that I do, and it's kind of really much geared towards, I mean, anybody, but so I have a son that's an athlete. And so you just thinking about a lot of the athletes that have passed away, young athletes that have passed away from a heart attack, and they were perfectly healthy, and even people that are working out that have passed away due to a heart attack. So I'm like, I want to do heart health. So it's kind of like, I don't know.
Well, I think do you have a well-written offer for this for women?
Yes.
Okay. Is it selling? Is it converting to people?
So I've reached out to multiple like doulas and midwives, but I don't think I was promoting the right thing. I think it was just I was promoting the just lab services, not really promoting the fact that I'm partnered with labs that offer low cost tests. And
Hmm.
so only I've gotten a response from one person only, and she was telling me, "Oh, I have my lab work included," but I feel like what I need to do is like do a breakdown of what lab work they do so they can compare it and see that mine's may actually be cheaper than what they're offering, and that way they can cut costs for people individually, or if people are thinking about doing infertility treatment and they just prior to them meeting with the fertility specialist just want to see what their numbers are before getting into it.
Okay. One thing I would caution against is because I think you might be painting yourself into a corner because if you're only going to market on the base of price comparison, then you're kind of stuck in that world,
Mm-hmm.
maybe limited.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to a value proposition, in other words, what we were talking about earlier, I don't know if you were in the call, but we talked about what the future would look like for someone to do testing. I mean, my wife just went through this, and she just bought, well, rather expensive program, but it was worth the time, and I'm glad she did it because she resolved a big problem. Her
Mm-hmm.
future altered. You know how her future altered when she got that? When she got the program?
Mm-hmm.
Her stress level went down.
Oh.
Mhm.
See? So I think you may need to create an offer that's not based on price, but really emphasizing for the end client, the woman, what she's going to get. That's not necessarily just getting results, etc., but it's more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Peace of mind, perhaps, or the confidence that she will have time and energy for her grandchildren and the great
Mm-hmm.
grandchildren, etc., like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, so you may have to create a offer that's more compelling. See, most people buy on the basis of emotion rather than logic.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to sell on logic on price, usually you paint yourself into a corner
Mm-hmm.
because someone else can always come up and outdo you in price. But value, harder to do.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have to spend time thinking. Thinking is a very rare resource.
Yes. Because I'm
Focus.
like you would think, because I'm like you would think it would make sense. So like I created a post
Yeah.
and I put it on LinkedIn, and I was just talking about how now with it's not necessarily that the doctors doesn't care about your health anymore, but it's the insurance companies that don't care to do preventative care. So when it comes to, so with the business, I don't take insurance, it's pretty much self-pay, but your insurance company won't pay for tests that you actually want done that
Right.
they may feel like you don't need to have it done. And then, so a lot of people may say, well, it doesn't run in my family. And I'm just like, we're living in a different times than we lived in when our parents and
Um,
grandparents were living. So I'm like, the
yeah,
food is
but you don't want to get into that kind of argument, you see.
different.
You're getting into an argument here,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's a killer for sales. You want to
Mm,
create a future, and if they want to come along, they come along. If they don't, hey, no is a great answer.
okay.
See, that's easier to sell. So I
Okay.
think you're part of, I don't know what you're really, because I don't know everything. I'm trying to, I got a few minutes here. I'm doing my best. So based on what you're telling me, I think you want to come up with a really good offer. Because
Mhm.
if you come up with a good offer, then what you say in networking events, I can even help. I'm very good at this, by the way. But I can help you come up with a very compelling elevator pitch that will get you a lot more people coming in the door.
Okay.
Yeah. But you got to think about, you could even interview the people that you've helped and ask them I don't know did you hear the questions I gave to the other lady? But how to do
The
it?
I missed it. You said the
Yeah.
question about.
So you want to interview your successful clients that you've had.
Mhm.
Ask them the following question. One question is, why did you hire me over someone else?
Mhm.
Second, what did you get that was of tremendous value to you? Third, what was it like before you met me? What were you struggling with? Fourth, what was it particular that I did that helped you get to the results you got? Okay. And if you interview them, record the interview. You want to record it, audio. You will start hearing what you need to put in your copy because it
Mhm.
won't be in your jargon. It'll be what people understand.
Okay.
So if you interview, you're going to start getting ideas of where you can really sell. In fact, what your real value is in the market. So
Okay.
that's what I would suggest, okay, if it helps you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Ask and you shall receive, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody else with a question? If you just joined us, we're just taking questions. It's not a networking event. Anybody with questions about their business that you'd like to have a breakthrough? We have about 5 minutes left. So if not, we're going to end. So anybody with a question? Going once, twice, three times a lady. All right. If you got value, just raise your hand if you got value out of this session. Teresa, you got value? Yeah. All right. I posted a link there, book informal time with me. If you book that, I will ask you questions on what you want to get out of the event, but you can calendar a time with me at that event, with me for that. All right, great. Last call for questions. All right. Guys, I think I'm off next week, but I'll be back the week after. And Thank you for the opportunity to make a difference with y'all. Have a great day. We'll talk to y'all soon. Take care. Bye, everybody.